Hey, what's up, Reefer? So, as you can see right now, my Mocha Da Vinci clown is in jail. More specifically, I got a breeder box from Petco for about $7. And there's multiple reasons why I kept her in there. So, number one, as you guys remember, she has been beating up my poor little male. And it has been just getting worse and worse. So I feel like she's kind of rejecting the pairing. And number two, I would like to get them into the Rose Bubble Tip Anatomy for reason like, for example, if the female goes into the Rose Bubble Tip Anatomy, her territory would be smaller than this entire column rock, which she seems to be defending against a male. Meaning that she'll just defend against a male in that little bubble tip anatomy. So there's more space for the male to roam around without being pushed around by the female. So I'm hoping that by her being hosted by the bubble tip anatomy, she'll just stay within that proximity, not the entire tank. That will kind of give the male a little bit more room to play with while they kind of get acclimated with each other a little bit more. Or if the female does not take to the hosting of the anatomy, I was hoping the male would go in there. And if the female hates the anatomy that much, maybe she'll leave him alone whenever he is in there. So it's kind of like his man cave. So for the first day, I have both of them in this little container right there. And initially, for maybe half the day, they get along pretty well. I guess they're kind of like in a panic because they're trapped in there. But as the day goes on, the female started getting a little bit more aggressive towards the male. Although both of them touch the bubble tip anatomy a lot, and the male actually seems to be hosting in it, or being hosted, meaning that he actually sits within the bubble tip anatomy, like right in the center, and seems really comfortable with it. The female does not seem to like being hosted as much, but she is not opposed to touching the anatomy at all, meaning that she actually goes in from time to time. She's not avoiding it like before. But at the look at that. But near the end of yesterday, it was just getting bad. Like, I guess the female started getting acclimated to this little breeder box, and she started pushing the male around. And as you can see, the breeder box is small, so really there's not much room for the male to go to run away from. So as the chasing becomes worse, I decided to let one of the fish out. And since the male seems to be fully acclimated with the bubble tip anatomy, like he was going in with no problem, he willingly goes in it and stays in it, I decided that, okay, I guess the male is fine. And honestly, the male is not the troublemaker in this case. So I let the male out, let him kind of enjoy the full tank for a little bit before I let the female out. And the interesting thing is that when I let the male out, he actually stays around the box a lot. I'm not sure if he's staying there for the female or for the bubble tip anatomy, but he was just hanging out. So I went to work. I did not see them for the entire day. So I come back. The female swimming around. She is not actively going into the anatomy at all, but she has no problem touching it. Unlike the male, where the male actually seems to go specifically into the anatomy and actually hang out in there for a little bit. So I'm not convinced that the female is willing to be hosted by the bubble tip anatomy quite yet. However, I feel like I've probably locked her in there long enough. So I'm going to let her out, and I'm going to remove the bubble tip anatomy and try to find a spot for her. And we'll go from there. If the female is still constantly beating up on the male like non-stop, we're talking about aggressively beating him, just a little scrabble is fine. It was actually came to a point that I had the top off because I was like feeding the tank, and the female chased the male so bad that the male actually jumped straight up for like 2 inches out of the water and going back in. That was dangerous. If I did not have the screen top, he probably ended up on the carpet already. But anyways, going back to it, is that I feel like if the female is still beating up on the male so bad and the male is not ducking into the anatomy, or the female is not taking to the anatomy and like shrinking her territory, then I may need to think about trading one of these guys in and try a different pairing, which is a shame because I really like both of them. Yeah, so hopefully I don't have to go to that decision. Or maybe I'll try it one more time where I just put one of the clowns into the breeding box and keep one of the rows of bubble tip anatomy in there and either one of them take to the anatomy, or they kind of get used to seeing each other through the box without being able to touch each other, and get used to having each other around. Yeah, it's strange because like I hear that Ocelarius clown, they should be a lot easier to pair compared to especially like maroon clowns. But I don't know. Like the way the female push the male around, it's pretty vicious. So I don't know. We'll see. Well, I'll let them in today and I'll update you on what's going on. All right. Wish us luck.